This is Average Sports.
By your average guys.
Eric.
And Ty. That would be so bad.
Yeah. This is Average Sports.
Your average sports.
Average Sports.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of
You're listening to Average Sports with your average guys.
Average Sports, average guys, Eric and Ty.
We're surviving. We're here. We're still doing our thing, but not in the same space. Yeah, it's the whole upside down world thing, and of course that's going to affect podcasts too, but Eric and I are going to do the same thing. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Average Sports with your average guys, Eric and Ty, and I'm Ty, and got Eric on the line here with us.
Hey.
How you doing over there? You making it?
Dude, we're hanging in there, man. You know, it's social distancing and self-quarantining, so,
right.
You know, it's hanging out in the backyard and talking to people like you and I are on the phone.
That's right. Well,
that's about it.
I really have to appreciate people who are spending their downtime of trying to make up their own kind of activities. A lot of those Goldberg machines. They're not Goldbergs. They're
the Rube. I think it's Rube Goldberg.
Okay, all right.
I think that's it.
That's yeah. I think people.
But I know what you're talking about.
Right.
Yeah.
So seeing that type of stuff, or just staying active in their house or doing things. I mean, I got to appreciate that, because a couple of little announcements here that we have not actually gotten to discuss since the last time we recorded an episode. The Olympics, to no one's surprise at this point, did officially move their start time to 2021 for those games, and they have an actual date. And I believe it was 1 week before. I don't know if you have that in front of you, Eric, but I think it's...
Hold on. Give me 10 seconds and I got it.
While Eric's looking that up, Wimbledon also, unfortunately, is canceled for 2020, so there will be no Classic on the grass over there in England. And... boy, I don't know if you play ESPN Fantasy at all, Eric, and do the streak on there, but they've been reaching. They got to really make up things to... gamble on, not really gambling, just making picks. I mean, it's all about reality TV right now. I even yesterday, their first one of the day was what the price would be for the first item to bid on Price is Right. Price is Right is now a sport. You're okay with that?
Well, it's not a sport, but I mean, it's super fun to see that they're trying to keep it going and just keep it entertaining. So,
for sure.
I got the dates for next year. It's July 23rd to August 8th of 2021. 23rd. That is a day before on either end of what it would have been this year. Yeah. And then the Paralympic Games, which have also been moved, those will be August 24th through September 5th.
Okay. Yeah, it's disappointing, but again, not to be a surprise. But, just over a month ago, you and I were talking about, and I was definitely making that bolder call of Olympics seem to be unaffected. And Japan hung in there for a long time. Tokyo was saying, we're not doing this. We're not going to postpone. We're doing it. But here we are. Best decision, I think, all around for the athletes and everyone who would be traveling to that city. Just to let's wait.
Yeah, I mean, you would hope that by the end of July that we're kind of, back to normal. But I mean, this is not something that can just be thrown together with what's going on. I mean, the athletes are not trading the way that they probably normally do.
Yep.
Leading up to an Olympic game, which really, would put a wrench on, having good quality competition going on for all those. And then, several people are still going to be, traveling from all over the world to come in. And, there just may be a lot of infrastructure needs that, need to maybe be revamped in, a couple months' time probably isn't available. Although Tokyo would be one of those cities that I would expect, that can handle infrastructure problems, unlike places like Rio de Janeiro or Beijing or Athens that completely collapse on themselves. Sochi, that just have no business, in my opinion, of holding games. So,
yeah, I think.
Well, maybe point. Beijing. I'll give Beijing, but
yeah, very adaptable. Right.
But they also then just completely abandoned everything instantaneously after it was done. So we'll see if they do better the next time around when it comes to them. But yeah. A little disappointing, but it's for the best.
Yeah. So we do have a good episode here for you, but still plenty to talk about, all things related to sports, keeping you guys in the know. But of course, the overarching theme is going to be related to the coronavirus and everything that we're all going through, including seeing that one of our own local champions from St. Louis. Well, he's not from St. Louis. He played for St. Louis Cardinals. Jim Edmonds, who's now a broadcaster, came down with the virus. Says he's doing okay, making he's on the path of healing. But that was a little bit of a surprise too to see that come up in headlines. So just wanted to throw that out there. We wish him a speedy recovery. Get better.
He also wasn't the only announcer for St. Louis to get it.
I missed that.
It came out yesterday. The Blues had announced a couple days ago that someone in the organization was diagnosed with it, but they wouldn't say who it was. But it came out, I think it was yesterday, that it was Kelly.
Yeah.
On air personality.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
For the Blues.
Okay. So. Well, we wish him the best as well. Hope everyone, even like John Prine, you see these. These names and faces that we're all familiar with, that no one's immune to this situation. So with that, we digress. We talk about where the situation is brought us with all of our major sports across, at least the American landscape. First, what do you want to talk about, Eric? You want to talk about the fact that MLB should be happening? We missed opening day and what that means, or you want to start NFL? What are you feeling?
Yeah, well, let's start with the sport that was just supposed to kick off. Opening day was supposed to be, this week. It was supposed to be yesterday, I believe. So you're the big baseball guy, man. What'd you find out? What do you got?
What I'm saying, so right now that May 1st is what MLB was originally talking about. That's just not happening. So just embrace that. It is announced, even official, as from MLB. May 1st, not going to happen as what was it, the initial postponement date for getting into the season. With that said, no one still really knows when the 2020 season is going to begin. However, there are a lot of different scenarios that may play out that I think is quite interesting, and ESPN has done a good job of putting together a short list of what the season could really look like for baseball. And it breaks it down as far as, here's a possible start date, like let's say May 15th, for example, and there's 3 different dates on that. If you have an end date of October 1st, you're looking at 140 total, 140 days in that time of actual time. And then that is... if you played a game every day, obviously that's a 140-game season. So what they're also just trying to show and demonstrate here, that if we're going to be done in October into November, and let's also accept the fact that more than likely we are going into the first or second week of November for this baseball season, we're definitely not hitting that 162 games. And May 15th is going to be the absolute earliest that we'll be able to even start the season. So get used to the fact that it's going to be abbreviated. It'll be an experiment for a lot of these players and clubs, and just for the whole league. And it's not going to be just doubled up. We're going to do a bunch of double headers all through the season. We're hitting it. It's not going to happen. This is really going to be...
That's what they wanted to try and do, and it was like, you guys are crazy.
Yeah, right. I kept hearing that too.
No way the players' union's going to go along with that.
So there's one scenario that they list out in here. On May 25th, if we started and take the season to October 31st, that's 160 days. So potential, if every team played every day, then you're going to have a 160-game season. That would be the most. Is that going to happen? I highly doubt it. What you're really likely to see is they break it down to a games played average of 0.87 and then games average of 0.92 games per day. Then you're looking at likely 139 games in that scenario. What I think is going to be more likely is if we're looking at a June sometime start, like a June 1st start. Let's go with that. You're looking at possibly 137 days. If we take it to mid-October, that's 119 games. If you're looking at that 0.87 games per day average. So right around that 120 mark. That's what I would expect us. That's what I think baseball would be satisfied with, given the circumstance. But we'll see. I mean, I think the month of May is really risky, and that's going to make an effect across all sports.
You know, the other one that I heard about baseball, too, is that they wouldn't try and end at the time that they normally do. They would still do their best to try and play the 162. But the playoffs would be drastically different, where they would pick a single site to do the playoff games. So, they would pick some of the Southern California teams or any place with a dome, Or, some of the South Florida, Texas teams that have warmer weather, in December.
Yeah.
And they would just play it there. And then it would just be a fixed site on where they would be, doing the games for baseball.
Yeah.
So that was another interesting one that I heard. But I mean, but then it just comes down to this, if you're going to continue to do that, and we'll talk about this with basketball and hockey, what does that do to the off season? And what does that really do to your players that are your marketable pieces that make this money? You're going to break them down. So I mean, that's a second side to this argument here of, if you don't shorten the season and still give them a reasonable off season time frame, then you're really going to be hurting your players. But in the long run, do teams care more about TV contracts than they do players? Which I think we probably know the answer.
There's a lot of money in the old banana stand there. Well, Eric, how about you mentioned NHL and NBA? Where are we with those sports? I mean, they just stopped. They were here one day and they're gone. What's up?
Yeah, so both kind of have a different idea of what I've been able to pull up. I've been able to pull some stuff from NBC Sports for NHL, some stuff from CBS Sports for NBA. And kind of what I'm getting the gist of is both teams, depending on, when they'd be able to get back in there, they would give them about a week or so of conditioning, per se, like a little mini training camp or something like that, starting in, either mid-June or July, and then doing their best to try and finish out the regular season. The NHL seems so far to be very set on wanting to finish out the regular season, considering that they were so close to the end, something like 13 games left or something like that. NBA has a little bit longer, but it doesn't necessarily look like finishing the regular season is a huge concern for them. It kind of looks more like it'd be barely an option at this point, instead of maybe just throwing a couple of games on the end of the schedule, but then really moving into postseason play. The NHL at this point, what I've seen, these are just proposals. Nothing is certain yet, obviously, with being very unknown circumstance of what's going on. But the NHL looks like they would want to be doing their normal playoff 7-game series through August and September, a very short off season where you would have a lot of free agency almost immediately after the Stanley Cup Finals in that sense, and then starting the season a little bit late or very close to on time, but still running the next season at full 82. What they would then do is have no All-Star break and no bye weeks, which in the NHL, most people don't know, but you get a bye week. Half the league gets a bye week the week before the All-Star break, half the league gets the bye week the week after. So they would cut that out entirely to then be able to fit in the 82. NHL is one that I certainly worry about breaking down and running down players if you were to do something that short. The NBA looks like what they may do is try and run something that would be again, same with baseball, like in the same city. Pick single city, some of the ones, non-NBA regions, some of the ones that have been thrown out, Las Vegas, Atlantic City, Hawaii, Louisville, Bahamas have all been discussed apparently. And then there is one NBA city that is on there, which is Orlando, which is the only NBA city that's been discussed. And they would do like a 3-game series throughout the playoffs. All the way through the finals. They would just do a short and even playoff series as well, and looking to probably start either again late June, early July to try and run through this. And one of the things that they really want to do is then also they've contemplated pushing the start of the NBA season back to December.
Like Christmas time.
I'm pretty sure baseball would be super upset about that. They don't want that at all. Because baseball, I think, struggles with viewership in the first place, and then to have the country's second most popular sport running not only into kind of like the early part of your season, but the time of the season when you're the only product available, they would really dislike that. So, but that's another option out there as well too. They would maybe start the season a lot later as well for the NBA.
Yep, all interesting stuff, and we'll see how it goes. And as you mentioned, though, every decision made at this point will have that ripple effect. Other decisions are going to have to be made as a result of how these seasons get played out. So I think it's in everyone's best interest to have these abbreviated seasons. And then how about MLS right now? What's soccer up to?
Their commissioner was actually